What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to the Friday Live Helpcast with your hostess, the mostess, Diana Gladney. And as you see me sneakily pick up the Sony ZV-E10, that is the topic of today. Talking about some of the quirks that I kind of found in this camera. Not that it's not been, I guess, maybe found or experienced already. Maybe you're experiencing some of these, or maybe you haven't run into these already. I think this is something we should open up a conversation about, because I think we've unlocked a few things that we need to send some requests through for a firmware update versus just chattering about it online. I really do think there's a couple things that need to be tweaked in the camera, and my experience with one whole week of using this camera nonstop for my video content creation. If you're new here, my name is Diana Gladney. I am an entrepreneur helping you simplify the video creation process so that you can amplify your business and your brand using video. So when this stuff starts to get too technical and you can't understand what the heck is going on, some of the jargon, all that stuff, this is where you come to. So whether you're watching this live or on the replay, thanks for being here. Let us go over to the chat very, very quickly. Say hello to some fam. And also, we're also taking a look into the battery life and stuff. So we're going to talk about that. So not just like bash the camera or whatever, because we don't do that around these parts. But we're going to be taking a look at something, comparing that to my Sony a6600. We're not going to do an exhaustive play-by-play between all these different cameras today. We do not have time for that. But what we do have time for is to go through some of the battery life, because the a6600 has what's called the Z battery. It's this awesome, huge battery that literally you do not have to think twice about, and battery life has been a concern. So I want to address some of those things, and again, some of my findings with that. So let's say hello to some of the good people over here in the chat. What is going on? Tyler B talking, saying I'm okay being early, and nothing wrong with that. I hear you. Jojo the techie, good to see you, saying happy Friday. I heard that. What is up, Tawana? Good to see you. And saying I'm new here. Well, hello, Angela. Welcome to the community. Hopefully you enjoyed today. If you guys have questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. We're going to be running right along. So as you all know, we already have the complete walkthrough showing you every menu. And this is different. It's not like I can say, oh, go watch the A6400 walkthrough video. It's the same as the A6100 minus one other thing. But it literally is a whole other setup for this camera, which I find very interesting, which lets me know that things are going to be different in the use case, which is what I found in this week of using it. Overall, first week one experience and my personal thought about it, I really like some of the decisions that they made in this camera. And I'm kind of glad that it's not the same exact body style as the A6600, because even though like I rock with the flip up screen, like I'm so used to it, I've been looking up and looking at the microphone like a ding dong bell, but I'm like, screen's over there. So, so that's a thing. Flip out screen is great and all of that. And it's like, I thought I would miss a whole lot more. And I'm like, I don't have all the custom function buttons and all that extra other stuff, but I'm finding they really did, like, they must have put this in somebody's hands like before, like, is this cool? Is this, how does this work? Or like, I don't think these were just like frivolous decisions, if you will. I think the decision to put the menu on this camera as a button was smart. I think for it to be right underneath, like, or right above the function button was smart. If you haven't taken a look at the camera, if you don't know what the hey I'm talking about, let me zoom in here for effect. All right. So if you look here on the camera, this is your menu button, right? And then here is your function button where you get access to your quick menu. All of these can kind of be reprogrammed. I wouldn't recommend like your display and changing your ISO and all that stuff, but you can reprogram the trash can button to do something different. Most people have this set to product showcase mode. And most people have this front button, which I probably am going to take this microphone off because you are in the way out here in these streets today. Merry Christmas to you. At the top here on your camera, you have another custom function button. Maybe flip that so you can actually read in English. You have another custom function button right there. And you can also program this for the shutter, which is, if you watch the tutorial video, that's exactly what I did. And then instead of a mode dial, you have those buttons, which in full transparency, I thought it would be something that might annoy me but I'm like, let me give this a shot and we will see. And I found so far that is perfect for me personally. I know in watching Lok Chung's video, he was like, it's annoying because you can't just click, click, click. Even if you change the menu on the camera, it still takes the processing system a second to recognize that you've switched. So to keep pressing the button like that, I think is illogical, because we would click the dial until we get to where we want to get. And we're still waiting that extra second or what have you for the actual camera system to say, this is the last one. Okay, cool. So it's doing the same thing. It's just that obviously you can click a button faster than you can do it. So it's not that it's slow. And I'm finding that it's like the same time, because I do like actively, if I'm actively changing the set, like the dial here, if I'm doing that, then I'm like, this is what it sounds like. And then you get to the one. Well, now I don't have to scroll through all of those different ones, because it's photos, videos, S&Q. Within those photo or video dials, you can get to, if you want to do program auto, your manual exposure, if you want to do aperture priority or shutter priority. But I'd never use those in that specific dial mode. What I will do is be an aperture or shutter priority on the rare occasion that I may use it, but it's through the movie dial. So I still would have to go through the software to do that, like actually hit the custom function button. So that's the same. As far as the buttons, if you're coming from like an A6600 or maybe a bigger camera or something, and maybe you do want this for vlogging, I'm not really pushing this as a vlogging camera, even though you can use it. It's just a really good all around camera. And if you do vlog, then cool, kind of a deal. Today, I'm getting a chance to go out this weekend and test some stabilization stuff, because that's going to take some time. And I don't want to rush that. I really want to understand what's going on between the different ones, and doing some of that stuff is going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to take the weekend to spend some time doing that. Also, I'm like, these buttons is going to be a problem. It's not enough. It's not enough. You take a look. Let's zoom back in here for effect. Getting real close and personal. Are you ready? Are you ready? This is very close and personal. Back it up. No. Dials. Camera to camera. It's very different. So I got two buttons up here versus just the one that you get over there, the C1, right? Flip these around. A6600 to ZV-E10. Sorry about the fingerprints. And you see it's a very different button style layout. I most certainly thought I would miss the little switch to get the one thing going. Now this is where we get into our auto exposure area. Auto exposure is where, if you're new to all this camera stuff, don't worry. It's that ISO. It's going to deal with the light sensitivity, so how bright and dark your image will look. This is one of those factors. So you'll also see that as your right directional button on your camera. It's called ISO, just those letters. What does it stand for? I don't know. So it doesn't, like, everybody just ISO. I've never been able to find the answer. It is what it is. All right. Now, when you put your camera in something like an auto ISO, or you're rolling in program auto, I want to show y'all what I found with some of these exposures. And I do this via time lapse, and this is through the S&Q, and this is in program auto. I'm like, I'm going to sit the camera down and you have fun figuring that out. I don't want to be bothered. I just need to get back to work and catch a time lapse of whatever I'm doing, right? You know, you guys know we have the Being a Creator series. So the documentary style vlogging, I'm capturing and documenting. I'm not trying to be a filmmaker at this point. You know what I'm saying? So let's go over to take a look at this. So this is a snapshot of the footage, right? So this is from the recent vlog that you all saw, episode 11. And what I want to bring to your attention is just like, one, it's evenly exposed for the most part. Nothing's changing, not a whole lot of sunlight or whatever. And even then, there's some tinting on the windows. But you see, we've gotten through this pretty well, and it stayed pretty consistent. So no matter if I scroll through this whole video, you see it get a little bright and darker. But this is what I expect when I'm going through auto exposure or, you know, time lapse or whatever, and the camera is figuring it out. Here's what I don't expect. Now, this is a video clip, again, part of that Being a Creator series. You see this, how we kicked it off super early in the morning, blah, blah, blah. I'm not playing with camera settings. And we can see that about, let's see here, it's about here, about 16, 17 seconds in. Only a portion of this went in that was relevant, but as you can see now, it's starting to get really dark for kind of like no reason, because it's already dark outside. The only light is the one in like the screen, and then I have the, what's the name of the ceiling light. So I don't see a reason for it to re-expose. And even if it's catching the light from behind me, the face exposure that's in the camera, similar to the ZV-1, shouldn't adjust that harshly. And then you see it comes back. But if I scroll through this video, I just want you to see the dynamics of over time, how this is shifting. And you see it get dark, it gets bright, get dark. You know, obviously it readjusts for that, gets bright, get dark, get bright, get dark. Like, that is a problem for me personally, because as I'm doing a time lapse, I do expect as the day progresses on to actually have where it's adjusting. Like I expect it to, because when it goes from day to night, you're capturing that. I had a time lapse on Instagram from when I was in, where was I at? I was out of town. I'll put it that way until I can remember where. But I was out of town, and I was like in front of this really nice place. And I'm like, man, let me find S&Q real quick on the camera, set that up, and I can go get dressed, do whatever I'm going to do, and let it go. And it was a nice little transition. Program all settings is exactly the same. So one of the problems I'm noticing with the ZV-E10 thus far is that the sensitivity in the auto exposure is a bit too harsh, and that needs to be dialed down and adjusted. And that's one of the main reasons I did not go with Fuji, in addition to like some of their, like the auto focus not being like reliable. That's a problem. Auto exposure I could deal with, because that just means adjust the ISO and I can set it. But if this camera, for who it's intended to be for, is who it's intended to be for, that's something that I think a user that's not well versed in video is going to expect their camera to figure out for them, and they're not going to like that. So let me know what you all think. We're going to dive into the chat real quick, and then we'll get into some battery life tests for the ZV-E10. What's going on, Truth Seeker? Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Doing very well. Thanks for asking. What's going on, TED Talks? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying, is there a Sony crop sensor camera that has dual SD card slots? No. If you want SD card slots, you are going to something like, at the cheapest nowadays, based on it being, and this, none of these are crop sensors. So APS-C, 0 cameras. If you're going to have to go to full frame to get that, starting at about the performance of an I was going to say even the A6100, maybe the A6100, maybe the A6400, I think is a good baseline to put that at as far as autofocus performance. Slightly slower though, because the A64 came out later. So you're looking at the A7 III. That's the older full frame entry level camera. That's as close as you're going to get. But even like the A7C, that's not the intended market. So you got to go A7 III, A7S III. Like you're jumping from like two grand up to about 3,500 and higher US dollars, that is, until you get to something like that. But they don't do like Sony. That's one thing about Sony. Like they don't do like like they're not going to give you that in APS-C. You got to go full frame for that one. I'm not even sure if Fuji has that anywhere. And then now what Sony is doing is their SD card slots are dual purpose. So it can take the CF Express Type A. It's either Type A or Type B, whatever it is, the smaller ones. And that also can take the UHS-2 SD card slots in the same slot. And that's like A7S III, A1, probably the A7 IV. That's supposed to be announced within the next 1 or 2 months. We have rumors right now, but we won't have any verified, solidified data on that. But I would imagine the A7 IV. So that may be the next $2 grand, 2,500 camera that has eye autofocus, all the bells and whistles. Maybe 4K 30, maybe 4K 60. I'm hoping 4K 60, but to be determined. What's going on? Simply Ops, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Happy Friday. Good to see you, Kombucha. Saying it's 12 a.m. now in India. Jeez Louise. That is quite the feat, but thanks for staying up with us. saying, well, wow, I finally made it to a live session. Saying, buy this rather than an iPhone. Santa Claus might bring me this if I can write to him a good reason why later. Hey, man, you better find a reason. Find a good reason to get Santa on your side. You got Dr. Elo in the building. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Recently was on a show over at B Live, so that'd be something interesting to check out. Alrighty. And then we have Mr. Devin Chambers in the building. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Saying, so excited, just ordered my ZV-E10 today. Congrats on your new purchase. Hopefully some of the tips, and if you have questions or concerns before it arrives, let me know. And then any videos, feel free to drop those in the comment section. I do reply to those. We have a super chat from Mr. Earl. Let me get you a little air horn right there. Saying, Sheba Dog shaking his hip saying, thank you. You are most welcome. Glad to be of service. Saying, let me know if the kit lens can be good for your vlog. Yeah, actually it can. I did a video on my channel talking about the basic settings for like, if you're getting started in video. That whole video was shot on the kit lens, believe it or not. Thumbnail as well. And we've reused that thumbnail several times, that photo and stuff like that. So the kit lens is what problem with kit lenses mostly is that for most cameras where most people complain about the kit lens sucks because the sensor also is crippled most of the time for a certain price. So it's like you have like a dull sensor and then a dull glass doesn't mix well. But because you have a Sony sensor that is pretty gosh darn sharp in 1080p or 4K, you throw on that kit lens, it's not terrible at all. You can definitely do some damage with it. I think the bigger thing is going to be the variable aperture, meaning as you zoom in, the image gets darker and you either need to manually adjust the ISO or let the ISO rock in auto. But you can do it and you'd be fine. I've done videos with it. Was it A6400 and the kit lens before, and it works fine. So it can do it. It's just a matter of if you're looking for background blur, it's not going to happen. And at 24mm equivalent, you're looking at it to be relatively close. Even if your hand is about here, you're still looking at about head and shoulders to be in the frame somewhere thereabouts. So we'll test that in the video when I talk about the stabilization and stuff like that. And then that'll also give you some image. And there's some great creators also on YouTube that have covered some of those details also. Saying, or should you go with a prime lens? If you do go with a prime lens, you got to take into consideration weight. And yeah, pretty much weight and focal length. They're currently, or I'll say that allegedly, allegedly was a lens. I haven't done the lens video yet. That's coming. Hopefully by next week, that video will be out. But like some recommended lenses that you guys can take a look at. Right now, there was a Rokinon lens that was coming out for, it was used to be like $499. Now it's like $199. It's like it's like a F2 or something like that. Let me take a look and we'll pull that up on the interwebs. But it was only about $199. It was on sale, and they have some other one. I think it's like a 12mm lens, and that would be pretty good because 12mm gives you some breathing space. Whereas 16, it's like it'll work, but when you start to introduce active stabilization, and then maybe let's say you do 4K 30, and so now you're introducing those minor crop issues that start to become massive. Okay, well, that now gets you less and less space. It's already, I think, in my opinion, too close for active at that point. Like, it's just, I just don't think it's not far enough. But it was this lens right here. Let's take a look, see. So this was the lens that had gone on sale. It was like the Rokinon 12mm f2, has autofocus. That's what the AF means. It is wide. It was on sale for a little bit for $199 for a couple days at least. This one down here that's cheaper is a manual focus. So if you want to be in focus, you need to twist the ring to do that. But I wouldn't recommend that, just because if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna have a lot of autofocus shots. Same with any of these Mikey or Meika, can't remember how they are supposed to be pronounced. Those lenses tend to be great, but you just need to know how to manually focus if you're going to be in front of the camera for sure. Cody wanted vlog in manual focus, but I mean, it is what it is, but I would not recommend it. So I'm not gonna get into lenses, that's gonna stray too far off. But I mean, you can get something like a Roca 9. The Sigma 16 is a fantastic prime lens, but it wouldn't be great for vlogging, in my opinion, simply because when you have digital stabilization, that already introduces a crop factor, and you're already using a crop body camera, and then you have 16, which is already too close. It's just too close. Like it literally becomes a head face vlog. Even though you don't have to get the ultra wide for like the 10 to 18, that's what's on the camera now. I would encourage you, if you go to a local camera shop or something and try any of the Sony APSC camera bodies, it's going to look the same, and try the 10 to 18 millimeter, you will see what I'm talking about. They'll let you walk it back and forth in the store, but you'll see what I'm talking about. If you want to rent a camera, you can go to a website like lensrentals.com and check that out. It's like diana.link/lensrentals. Hopefully any moderators in chat be able to help you out with that. All right, so I'm going to, let me see here. I'm gonna grab a couple comments to throw in the chat for the next round of Q&A that we're gonna do for a few seconds, but I will be sure to make sure that these get answered, because I just want to cover battery life real quick, answer those questions, then we can roll like how we usually roll for Q&A. All right, so battery life is interesting because it feels different, but the performance for the most part has kind of been very similar to my experience with the A6100 and the A6400. And so when we take a look here, just simple graph that I put together so that you can actually see this for yourself in a way that kind of makes sense. I've already done tests with the A6100, A6400, A6600, and the ZV-E10. I am not lining all those up together for this, but I do think it makes sense to take the ZV-E10, the A61/A6400, because those are the same camera, and then the A6600 that has the Z battery in there, so that you can see what it actually looks like in real use case. These particular tests are in 1080p, 24 frames per second. Obviously you'll get a little bit less in 4K. I'll have to do, again, maybe a dedicated video when I do the battery test one. It will include the 4K data, but for most people they're doing 1080p anyway, so we'll cover that for today. So the gray, as you see in the key in the bottom right, the gray is going to be your ZV-E10, the light blue A6100/A6400, and then the darker blue is going to be the A6600. When you are at 25 minutes, so you're getting close to that half an hour mark, you're at 85% on both the A61/6400 as well as the ZV-E10. So the performance is the same. Whatever they did, that initial boost of the battery life, it's about the same. So you're still at 85% when you're getting to close to half an hour. On the Z battery, the A6600, the ones that same battery you'll see in the I believe the A7C has that you're looking at. A7 Mark IV will have it, A7S3 has it, A1, all that stuff. A1, A9, all those cameras have it. 92%. So we are not even we're not even in the 80s at all. We're at 92%. When you get over to the hour mark, literally at 1 hour, you're at 54% in the ZV-E10. A61/6400, you're at 53%, 79% on the Z battery. So you can see why people are complaining about the battery life, or they were initially even frustrated at the rumor saying it was not going to be the Z battery, because they have experience not really having to worry about battery life in their other full frame cameras. Or if you spent the $1398 for the A6600 right here, then you're looking at not having to worry about battery life. And so now this reintroduces this as a concern. So I wanted to make sure we dived into the battery life, at least in the 1080p, 24 frames per second, so that you can see that. Also, I put a little asterisk off to the side just for if anybody's curious. At 4K, 24 frames per second, when I was doing the 4K test, at least so you know, for the ZV-E10, you have 25% left when you are at an hour. So you don't have much longer, maybe another 20 or so minutes. I think it was, I can't remember the exact details. Actually, I have it right here. 4K, 24 frames per second. At 1 hour, 17 minutes, the battery symbol came on. So at 1 hour, 17 minutes. So again, about that 20-minute mark is about before your camera dies in 4K 24 on this FW50 battery. Now you can plug your camera up to USB-C and continue operating. I've been able to do that with the A61, A6400 and run for up to 3 hours. And it's like, I'm not doing this no more. Like, I got stuff to do. So you can run this off the USB-C if you're having to do that. And I've done a whole day event because I screwed up, thought I had another battery charged. I did not. I had the one in the camera. That one was about to die. I was like at 12% or something. Pull out the battery bank that I used, this little itty bitty one that stays in my pocket, and I just plugged it into the camera. And that's how I shot the rest of the event, with a little battery bank in my pocket. You wear usually like a fanny pouch or whatever already anyway when you're doing kind of stuff, or at least some kind of side pouch, something that you have on you. Maybe you have a little bag. So you already have something on you. So all I did was just trail that cable up, and it was not a problem. Camera didn't come unplugged, or some people were like, oh, the micro SD, it'll come unplugged. I've never had that happen on the camera, literally. I say once when I kind of tripped over the cable. So that's the instance with the ZV-1, and it was plugged in via HDMI, and then I needed to reconnect it, but I tripped over the cable. But past that, just like it dangling and wiggling its way out, I've never had that happen. Or with the USB, I've never had where I thought it was getting power and it wasn't. And I've been using these cameras about daily since 2019. So take that for what you will as far as the battery life. So let's take a look at some questions that had came in before. Say I want a low price camera with 4K video. Can't get better than $699 US for the ZV-1. A6100, 6400 just aren't worth it now with this camera coming out, which is weird, but it's what you're gonna get. And if you get a cheaper used older APSC, you're looking at worse battery life because they didn't do any updates to make it more efficient. And you're looking at a ton of other problems. Overheating also in those older Sony bodies. Usable, 100%. I know people that still love their A6500s till this day. But you also have to know what you're getting. You also, when you buy too cheaply, you buy the problems that come with being cheap. So that's a thing there when you're taking that into consideration. So aside from the Sigma primes, any favorite lenses you can share? To be honest with you, I really only buy what I actually only need or plan to use. The Sigma 16 is a lens that you hear a lot about because it works great. It's a great universal lens for if you're going to take it outside or indoors, as indoors especially. That f1.4 is fantastic. I don't go into, and I've tried lenses like Yongnuo, Tamron. That's one of my favorites, other favorites. I like Sigma for their primes. Tamron has some lenses that I really, really like. It's something about the aesthetic of the Tamron lenses that are really, really good. That's a zoom lens though, but as far as primes, I think it's pretty much going to be the same experience. It's just a different focal length. And either you want an f2 or you're looking at something that is an f1.4-esque. In that case, the glass is going to be heavier. But if you're looking for something small, I'm not really looking for size at that point with primes. I'm looking for sharpness, no other kind of leakage, I'll call it, because I can't think of the right name for it. But no, I don't want any kind of weird coloring stuff, because the interesting thing with lenses that most people that are new don't recognize is different lenses have different characteristics. And sometimes, even though a lens can be cheap, if I'm pairing that against a lens that isn't cheap and that is good quality, one looks slightly warmer and the other one doesn't. And then you have to adjust the white balance to make them look the same when it's the exact same camera, exact same color science, even in a log profile. And you're like, well, what's this all about? So that kind of stuff can happen. If you just like one and done, I don't care, just give me price. You're looking at Tamron, even Sony came out with some stuff, and you're looking at Sigma. I don't go based off of anybody else for real. Even like Rokinon, Samyang, they're the same company. They're pretty cool. I like their stuff. But if you're going to get one, if you got multiple cameras, maybe match those up with the same kind of shindig so it looks the same. Because some lenses can have different little, again, lens characteristics to it. It's something that you need to experience to really like understand, because even showing it on YouTube, the way your phone is made or your computer, different shifts in the hue, you may not see anything. So it's something that you really got to experience for yourself, I think, when it comes to that. So that's my thoughts there. Say I'm trying to get the ZV-E10. Should I buy full frame lenses or stick with the crop sensor lenses? Think about the progressive process that you're going to go through. If you're talking about buying lenses, I don't mind buying crop sensor lenses, and I also don't mind full frame. That's the thing with Sony. It's one mount. Everything fits. So it's cool. And people are like, oh yeah, but it's like, I'm sorry, but the hell with what everybody else is talking about. You can upgrade and move those lenses around, because even when you get a full frame camera, there's a Super 35 mode on there that puts you in the crop mode. So you can use your crop sensor lenses on those cameras, full frame cameras. So it does not matter. And if you use full frame to whatever, it don't matter, because if you want to transition into full frame, you can. I look for, what do I need? What is the lenses options that are available? And I buy accordingly. I don't worry about that, to be honest with you, when it's Sony, because there's an upgrade path and there's a cross use path. I could have both in the office. And I have used on occasion the A6400 and the A7 III at the same time, and lenses were not an issue. It's just literally the focal length, making that switch if I'm on full frame or whatever, for whatever it is that I need. So you can do both. It just doesn't matter. In my opinion, it doesn't matter, because what most people are complaining about, maybe they're getting paid for a film or something. I'm selling a course. Like, I'm getting a client. It's fine. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like, oh, it's fine. No, it's sincerely, it's fine. It's like, so some of that stuff you kind of got to throw over when some people complain about stuff or make mention. Dual card, Fuji film, the only one. Yeah, okay, I answered that question. Can you compare the ZV-E10 to the A7C, or are they completely different audiences? I think if you are talking about the A7C, you're looking at basically a full frame version of an A6600, but in that ZV-E10 ZV-1 body style. That's pretty much all it is. It's the same performance minus a few differences, like minimal differences. As far as the A6600, it's the same menu system. It's still full frame. This is APS-C, that's full frame. So you get a little bit better as far as maybe with not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crop sensor full frame or whatever. So you have a little bit more in the shot. Obviously a little bit better lighting experiences. So maybe your ISO can drop down a little bit lower when you're indoors and stuff. You won't need as much because it's a bigger sensor. It can receive more light. But the APS-C cameras, which is why it never bothered me, like upgrade to, it's like, to what? Bigger, heavier? Why? Like, I've seen the two side by side. I've used them. It wasn't important enough. It was no difference in dynamic range so extreme that I was going to lose out on something. And I've been, like I said, when I've had occasion to use the A7 III for like an all-day shoot, I'm like, just give me my freaking A66 or A64. I'm fine. Like, I can get the job. Like, this is just heavy for no reason, in my opinion, in my use case. So, I mean, A7C is not, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I think it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I like it, but it's just like, what do you want and what do you need and what are you about to do with it? That's going to dictate. If you do need that little bit of extra oomph that comes from full frame, maybe you want to make sure all your lenses are full frame, go for the gold and get it. But I think you probably want to hold off between getting the A7C, because the A7 IV is about to announce. At least I would say wait until we have a little bit better confirmed rumors for some features and stuff, and then compare, because I definitely can't see paying the price of whatever the A7C costs right now. Even like the A6600 is looking sideways because it's $1398. Sony A7C, let me see what this price is real quick. On Amazon, the Sony A7C, well, that's one of those random kits, $1798. $1798 for a Sony A7C right now, and it's like, for what? With at probably an extra $200, maybe $300 or $400, you're gonna get a way better updated camera with the new menu system, probably 4K 60. Hopefully, and maybe dual card slots and stuff. So I wouldn't just say go based off of sensor size. Look at the other components of the camera. If you do need dual card slots, you do need additional dynamic range. That camera's probably going to have IBIS in it, that in-body image stabilization. Go that route. Wait another month or so, maybe 30 to 45 days, and then buy an actual camera that's going to suit your needs versus playing with the ZV-E10 that may not be good enough, strong enough, or the little quirks about it may be annoying. And the A7C is close, but not close enough. And so that makes it annoying. So I would probably wait a little bit if you need full frame and go the A7 IV route versus the A7C, because it is a difference when you're talking about it, but it's not always features. It's more so the use case and the performance in that use case, in that opinion. So there. So I see the video all the time. Does the ZV-E10 take great photos? Also, it's the same exact performance of any other cameras. And at that point, if the sensor is not dumbed down, which in my experience it is not, it's the same performance sensor wise. The lenses still are the same. There's no difference in the photo quality. The only difference is when you switch, you don't have the dial, you just have the button. It's going to take the exact same photo performance, A61, 64, A6600. It's going to be the exact same performance. I don't mind taking photos with it at all. It's no big deal. I just don't take a lot of them. All right. Now let's take a look at some of the other questions that have come in here. Kombucha hitting you up with the lens rentals. Alrighty. Saying 50 millimeters, 24 millimeters. Can these two provide me enough range to do vlog or indoor shooting? One, nobody's vlogging with the 50 millimeter and 24 millimeter equivalent, which is your 16 millimeters in APS-C crop sensor body size. You can vlog with that. And I don't care what prime, zoom, it doesn't matter. You can vlog with that, and people vlog just fine with it. 50 millimeters, ain't nobody vlogging with that. Now, if you just want that as a lens for something else, you can use it. The thing you have to take into consideration though, is that the Sony cameras have what's called clear image zoom. What clear image zoom does, it allows you to go in 1080p up to 2 times of a crop on the sensor, not just some digital random crop. But if you follow the instruction guides, when I go through and set up the camera and optimize it for video, I show you how to set up clear image zoom, or at least make that setting selection in the camera, in any of them that I've talked about. Okay, well, when you go through and you select that, that is cropping in on the sensor, not just like how you would pinch to zoom on your phone. Now, because phones have multiple cameras, it switches from the different cameras so that it is not kind of ridiculous and ugly looking like it used to be. Remember, you used to pinch to zoom and it'd look all fuzzy? That's what you're doing if you're doing optical. When you do clear image zoom, that's on the sensor. So all it's doing is condensing on the sensor to get you a sharper image of what you're already kind of seeing, but at that range. So you can go from 2.0 crop in 1080p, 1.5 times crop in 4K. So you technically can get plenty of range between, what is it, like a 16 to 32 millimeter. So if I take this, I can still go from 16 to like 32 millimeters using clear image zoom, not lose any of my background blur, so the bokeh doesn't change, and I'm punching in on the sensor. That's what I'm doing when I do this. For example, take a look at what's behind me, right? This is clear image zoom. The background blur didn't change. It didn't change. But you saw the image came in and I didn't deteriorate and look crazy. Let's take a look at a camera real quick. So that's something you can actually look at. Let's take the ZV-1. She ain't got no attention today. All right. So here we are, focused on her. Image didn't deteriorate. It stayed the same. It got closer, but the image didn't deteriorate because it's cropping in on the sensor, not just random brand, optical zoom. So that's the thing to consider. Even if you do lose promise, you don't lose the ability to have some kind of a zoom factor. So that's something that you can do there. So there's a crop factor, but I'm very confused. What you buy, you need for a wide angle for one standard. Okay, here's what I'll tell you. There's a video on my channel where I cover the Sigma 16 millimeter lens, because a lot of people don't understand what this stuff means. It sounds crazy, and it's like, is it gonna make my image look worse or better. Like that's ultimately what people want. The only video that I would say that you need to watch at this point is this one. And all I did was type in the search bar over on the channel, Sigma 16, but I'll drop a link to it in the chat as well. It's a 2.5-minute video, maybe a little bit longer, 251. But it's like, is it wide enough? Is the Sigma 16 wide enough? What happens mathematically is that you have the full frame sensor. Like I explained, this like French fries. You have small, medium, and large. We all have eaten French fries, right? We ain't gonna talk about the McDonald's Super Size Me that gave everybody, mom and daddy, high cholesterol. All right. Small, think of that like micro 4/3. It's a 2 times crop there. APS-C is medium. It's what most people get. It's what we all get fat on. Medium. It's a 1.5 times crop for Sony. Other brands have other crop factors. Sony is 1.5. Full frame, your A7C, A7S3, A7 IV when it comes out, is full frame. Okay, think of that like a large. That is what you're getting, and there's no crop at that because it's already full. So let me break this down for you in a way that you can understand. This is a 35mm lens, 35mm f1.8 Sony lens on my camera. This is now cropped in at 2 times what it should be, right? So if this was a Panasonic camera, Olympus camera, that's micro 4/3, position being the same, lens being the same, this is what it looks like. If I come down, where am I at there? Actually, you know what? I tell y'all what I'm gonna do. I want you to see what I see instead of just seeing like the overall image. I want you to see what I see. All right. These are all the settings on the camera, right? So we were at 2. This is a 2 times crop. This is what you're seeing when you're looking at something like Panasonic Olympus, right? 2 times crop. This is the small. When you come down, let's go to 1.5. Yeah, 1.5. This is now, if you're talking about not full frame, but APS-C, how much more that you would get comparative to looking at something like micro 4/3. These are your Sony cameras. So when they're explaining the difference in the sensor sizes, this is what that would look like in real use case. I would need to sit way further back if it was a micro 4/3 camera, but it's not too bad if it was an APS-C sensor size in this random example. Now, full frame says that if I come all the way out where there is no crop, then at this point, my bad. Alrighty. At this point, now you see the whole image. So the difference between full frame and APS-C is going to take you in about right there. So now you're saying, oh, well, I would need to do blah, blah, blah. But this is already APS-C, so this is what it truly looks like. So now you'd see a little bit less. It'll be a whole different framing, but essentially the example is the same. It's just now I'm doing it on this camera. But essentially, if I got a full frame camera, it'd be more or less the same, just different, obviously, dimensions and stuff like that. That's why the crop factor stuff matters when you're talking about looking at a camera. This is why I say APS-C works fine for me, because I'm only about 3 or 4 feet away from the camera. It's recessed back in the like closet a little bit, or right at the door for the way this office is set up. It's fine. If I need to get up and go change something, I can, or I have a remote that will do that for me for this one. Now, when you look at that video, the Sigma 16, it's like right here in my face. There's like no space. It's right here. And so I can reach up with my arm and make changes to the camera, and it still looks super wide. So that's why it's like, if you're talking about vlogging, people want more so that it's just not all their face or their head or whatever, which is fine, but to each their own. I like using the 10 to 18 just because I think it's nice to have that wide angle look. But sometimes, like on the ZV-1, I don't like it. Like when I was in California, I was like, I don't want to show like how much something is all the time. It's too wide. So I wouldn't always use the wide angle adapter. I would use the regular 24 millimeter, what you would get on a kit lens, because I want to show you how close I am to something, how realistic it is, or how huge something actually looks in real life. When you get so wide, things get smaller. Well, I'm like, I don't want to show you how much is around me. Like, I don't care. I want to show you like how big this ship is that I'm next to, how big this, statue is comparative to how short I am. Then it's like, I want to show you what it looks like. So it just, again, the what you want depends on what you're trying to do. But I will say Ulanzi, for those of you that are curious, is coming out with a wide angle adapter that will fit on the kit lens. I believe we talked about this last week, but technically you can already do that with the wide angle adapter lens that exists for the ZV-1. It's a 52 millimeter thread on there. You need to condense that down to 40.5. So you use step up rings or step down rings or whatever. It's a little janky. I ain't gonna front. It's a little janky. Doable, but janky. Because now it gets to be heavy or heavier. It just is weird. I don't know. It's fine, but it's coming out with one. Let me see here if they have it. It's supposed to come out in like the next month or so, maybe. So they're coming out with a wide angle adapter lens that'll fit on, it's saying for the ZV-E10, but they have this, at least on this image, if they hold true to what we see here, this is on the kit lens, if I recall correctly. Yeah, f3.5. I'm looking at this up here. Yeah, 16 to 50, f3.5, 5.6. That's the kit lens. Yeah, because you'll see also that rocker on the side. With that kit lens and that wide angle adapter, that millimeter thread is 52. You need like some step up or step down rings to do that and fit it. Same way, similar to the ZV-1, only this time it's going on the kit lens. So technically you can get something like a 12. And to be honest with you, I already tested it and I think it'll work for some people. I think, but my only problem with it is like, I don't like janky stuff. I mean, if something is a good hack or a good, whatever, it's like, okay, cool, this worked. I think buying something like the Tamron 11 to 20, Sony 10 to 18, yes, it costs more than hacking together all of this stuff. But a good sharp lens is never a bad investment because lenses don't lose but you can't repiece and sell this dream to somebody that worked for you. They ain't gonna want that on Facebook Marketplace like this. They take it, it's like, all right, but I ain't paying extra just because it costs you $50. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's literally the mindset in the resellers market. So when you take that and it's like, oh yeah, I'm selling the ZV-E10, but it has the kit lens and this wide angle adapter and these step up rings. So technically you can be like, can I just get the camera and screw that? Then you dock the price. They don't want that. They'll take it, but it's like the extra knockoff third party batteries that are be trash. It's like, all right, whatever. I throw it away when I get it. Or it's like, okay, a lens, you can always go just about get your money back for it. Great quality lenses don't go bad. You know what I'm saying? And they don't depreciate as fast as cameras do. What about the rolling shutter? Please say something. So when it comes to the rolling shutter, it's not, here's the thing. What are you doing to where you literally will do like that with the camera? That's literally a demonstration, and I think it's kind of getting taken out of context. Sony's APS-C body cameras have had this issue for a long time, so this is not anything new. And I've watched so many videos on these Sony cameras, even before I was a Sony user. It doesn't matter because most people, like if they trying to pan for something, they already doing it like this, or it's on a gimbal kind of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. You see them do like this, they just trying to show you how much sway something has. If that is an issue, buy a better camera at a higher price tier that doesn't have those issues. That's the fix. Buy a better camera at a higher price tier that actually meets your needs. Because for what most people generally at the price range that this camera is priced at, if they got to show something or they're following their kid and they're doing a rowboat session or whatever, then they're doing like this. You ain't seeing no rolling shutter. But if you are vlogging, let's say you vlog in 4K for some reason, then how you walk or whatever, you may get that extra bit of jiggle. But that more or less is something like for those particular shots, you can throw in Sony Catalyst browse and throw that in there. But it's only one instance since 2019, since I've been using these cameras, that I ran into where rolling shutter was a problem. And it was a door opening scene where I'm literally like up against the wall and I want to catch the door opening. At that point, I am not moving. So rolling shutter still is like, it goes scans from the bottom to the top, which is why you see that sway kind of a motion. Okay, well, the door is opening, and so you saw the sway, and I'm like, ooh, I really don't like that. Okay, in Final Cut, they have a rolling shutter thing, so it goes from like this to like this, and that was the end of it. Seriously, because it was only a clip of that scene, and so once I cut it down to what I wanted, in Final Cut Pro, I hit the rolling shutter button, let that figure it out, and it went from like this to like this. Fine. And the scene is so quick, as long as the story is good, who cares? I don't notice that stuff. So, and I'm not saying like screw it because nobody will notice. I'm not like, I definitely disagree with that mentality. But I will say, if you want better, buy better. We're not talking at $600. Like no rolling shutter, global shutter and all this. Like it ain't happening. It's just not in 2021 or even maybe 2022. But here's the hoping. So that's the thing. What's going on, JFK Productions? Good to see you. Saying greetings, Miss D. Hope you've have a blessed. You know what? I can fix that comment. And for those you don't know, this stream is brought to you by me, and I'm using Ecamm Live. And let's fix this right here. With the courtesy of Ecamm Live, what you can do is go in here and make adjustments to ridiculous comments, and now they're fixed. So now you see what's behind the scenes when you use Ecamm Live, and you can't do that with anybody else's software. I can tell you that much. So now the comment is fixed. Good to see you. It's good to see you. Oh my goodness. Say my favorite part of Friday lunch is Diana time. Oh, I thank you. Good to see you, Prairie Life. Glad that you're here. Something I really haven't heard anyone ask is how's everyone's doing in quarantine, lockdown, curfew? How's it affected your business? Need a sip of water for that one. Roll with the punches. I think so much of being an entrepreneur is learning to roll with the punches and adjust and adapt so that you don't take a hit that could have been avoidable when you aren't trying to be stubborn. I may not agree with a lot of stuff that goes on or whatever, but I'm not going to take time and focus in fighting on it. Like, I think if you care about an issue, go get involved locally and like go do something about it, or shut up and follow the rules. I'm not a politics kind of a person, so I'm not going to go get involved in local office. I'll do my civic duties to vote and vote what I think according to like what I believe is right and is right for like the city and the county and stuff and like school districts and whatever else. Cool. When it comes to curfew and stuff like that or a lockdown, what do I need to do? What is it saying that needs to happen? And what is that like? What did I have intentionally planned? Does it throw a wrench in it? Or can I move it around? Is it something that I want or something that I need? Mindset so much so around the doing this for your business, I think is so much so about what are things that you're giving attention to and you're fighting that is honestly a waste of your time. So many new entrepreneurs spin their own wheels and get frustrated about what I can't do. You just probably missed about 3, 4, 5 checks that could have been income producing opportunities, but you're so focused on the whatever. I don't watch the news. If there's an article or something important that I need to see, it will be in the headlines. And Facebook is nosy enough to say, did you see this? Did you know? It's like, yes, I saw it. Certain things I'll see, I'm subscribed to, but I make time to like see what's important and what's not and get those articles. Like I use Feedly and I'll be like, okay, what's important and what's not? What's industry specific and what's not? I don't pay attention to the stuff that kind of don't matter. It's not going to impact me so much so to be honest with you, I've thrived throughout this whole COVID thing, and not just because I'm in tech. I think just really because it's about the right mindset. Now let's not get it twisted. Early 2020s jacked me all the way the hell up because it was so many frustrating things emotionally that it was super ridiculous that I'm like, I'm having to even think about, but I think it was important because I think for last year, with all of the stuff that went on, it drummed up a lot of stuff that even as a black female, it's like stuff that we suppress or we deal with, just a black person in general, you just deal with and you don't even think anything about. And I think for me, the most frustrating thing was like seeing that people didn't recognize some of the stuff that we do by default, or that we grow up learning to do or not to do, or where to go or don't go. It's just a thought. The most frustrating thing to me, like around that, is like, so when I went to not San Diego, I take that back. It was during COVID last year, and I went to Washington, and it was a beautiful park. All I did was take that time lapse of it, but I took the time lapse because I was honestly not sure where I was. Is there going to be a problem if I go over there? And I don't know what in space I'm in. Like, I didn't do the research on that because the location changed. I got to look other stuff up that probably somebody that doesn't look like me don't have to worry about. I do. Not just because I'm a woman, but literally because I'm black. So it's like stuff like that. We've always done that without a thought. What's it like over there? Is it sundown town or no? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's native. I ain't going out late because I ain't trying to have no problems just for being out in some areas. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as a business owner, some stuff, honestly, just for being who I am and how we grew up, not that it was like, you know, a bullet whizzing past you every day or some kind of stuff like that, but just being who I am naturally and life experiences, I think we already kind of conditioned to some extent to deal with crap. So you just like, whatever, bring it. Like, I'm used to it. I think emotionally was the biggest thing. A lot of growth happened last year. I embrace discomfort. I don't like it, but I embrace discomfort and all that comes with it, because it's something there. It's just a revelation that it's something there that needs to be addressed. Why does this bother me? Why does this impact me? I lost friendships that I really, really cared about last year. Got to deal with it. Mourn those friendships and move on. Content ain't stopping though. I got a business to run. I now got employees to pay. And I was I should have hired employees last year, wanting to rev up to like being able to hire and hire more. So it's like the COVID stuff is just about rolling with the punches. And I think having good mentors and having a good community of people around you is important. So like y'all saw, Doc Rock became a person that's now talked about. You saw India, a person, you know, got Lim, you have freaking Elaine, you got Mosifis, who again, like, you're in our Facebook group and you see all this stuff, or the people or whatever, different people. It's like now are a part now, thankfully, of my life and journey, and people that I'm in community with, other creators in community with. Ooh, that's huge. You can't do this by yourself. I'm one person that would try, but thank God he sends me friends. But I think as an entrepreneur and as a creator though, the same rules that always applied still apply, but they're more important now because you are either going to stagnate your growth or you're going to enhance your growth with these different components. So that's what I'll say on that bitch, which is quite a bit of a soapbox. What's going on, James 6? Good to see you. Glad that you're here. What do you think of the Stabilization of ZV-E10? So I haven't fully tested this out the way I want to exhaustively, but in walking around with it, so a couple things that I've tested: kit lens with a wide angle adapter, 1080, what is it? Not 1080, but 10 to 18 millimeter for the lens. Not bad. I think some people with the active stabilization stuff, I don't know what it is. I have not, again, been able to figure that out all the way, but I think with the 10 to 18, excuse me, you're still fine even at the standard stabilization. I think active is not something you should be in 24/7. And what I've found in my personal use case and using it in like the actual recording stuff with it, if you are about to go in sport mode and you need to get from one side of the airport to the other side of the airport in like 10 minutes, or you miss your flight, that's when I'm putting the camera in when I'm like sport mode, is active stabilization is going on. It's the same thing I've done with the ZV-E10. And that's fine because it's going to condense down the shake. Maybe the camera is on me, maybe it's not, but you ain't necessarily, you know what I'm saying, worried that it's pointed like from down here, because you're trying to jog and get from over here to over there. Normal walking standard is fine, whether it's on the Manfrotto Pixie or whether it's not. So either way, it's cool. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see some of the issues. I still need to test like some of that in 4K and get my thoughts with Sony Catalyst Browse. Outside of that, no biggie. No different than the ZV-1, which I really, really like the ZV-1. I still need to compare the two against each other to see what's the difference. But I like having active more than I like having IBIS. Unpopular opinion, but Sony IBIS, that is, because everybody knows it's not the best. Sony IBIS versus the active and the standard being available in digital, I'll take that all day long. And Sony Catalyst Browser, I'd rather take that because IBIS don't always do the job, and you don't get the gyro that on like the A6600. So if it's gonna be IBIS, I want the digital 2 with the lens. They got to figure that out. That's one of the biggest hurdles I think Sony needs to address next. I don't care what camera it is to figure out IBIS, active and digital, if they're gonna throw that in there, and then with optical image stabilization. But standard and optical together is fine. 10-18 has the optical stabilization. What's up, Marley? Marley Tower, good to see you. Do you use clear image zoom, or do you have any tips for using it well? I'm waiting for that video to be finished editing, and then it will come out. I use clear image zoom all the time. Clear image zoom is just a fantastic feature that's probably underutilized by most people in the Sony community. I use it a tremendous amount because sometimes it's just a little bit of something I don't want seen. Like this corner right here is the printer. So if I'm using something like the Sigma 16, which always gives me a wider image than what I want, I'm just gonna do like that. And clear image zoom is enabled. If I don't mind and I know I'm gonna be punching in and out, and I don't mind that few seconds it's not gonna be noticeable or whatever, I'll keep it in, and then I'll just do my punch-ins like I usually do to get the widest frame to be able to manipulate in editing. But I'll use clear image zoom when I know for a fact this is way too wide. You seeing the ceiling, you doing the whatever. I'm at least bring that in a little bit. So I use a lot with the Sigma 16. I don't use it a ton on the 10-18 as much, but I have been playing around with the 10-18, and then the clear image zoom is set to the rocker here on the ZV-E10. So I like it a lot. Clear zoom is like one of my favorite Sony features ever, tremendously. I can hear the Wheel of Wonder music, or maybe we can get a giveaway while we're at it. Maybe not, but good to see you, David Hunt. Glad that you're here. What's up, Camera Junkie? Good to see you. What's up, Gabriel? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Saying I'm an A7 III owner. Looking for a smaller camera for vlogging in between the ZV-1 and ZV-E10. What are your thoughts? Do you want lenses or no? Because the Zeiss glass in this camera is not bad at all. I have no qualms about it. It's very sharp. Do you want retractable, put it away kind of a deal? I love this for traveling. It's my favorite. I haven't traveled with ZV-E10 yet, so I'll say favorite asterisk, but I'm pretty sure it's probably gonna be the same. When I do that and that goes away, it goes away and then it slides into my little messenger bag pocket or whatever. It just disappears. I don't have to think about it. But if you want a headphone port, maybe USB-C, if that matters to you, most of the time it does for if like you're doing cable management when you're on the go, you don't want a bunch of cables or different types of cables. Battery life performance may be about the same. Again, I have to look back at the chart to see, as far as the Z1 is concerned, but about the same performance, even though that's smaller camera, smaller battery, but essentially performance being the same. I wouldn't mind traveling. Like, I love what this is, but it's very different than the ZV-1, to be honest with you, because it's like, do you want to swap lenses? Yes or no? If the answer is no, and you just plan to keep the kit lens on there, get the ZV-1. You'll be well served with it. You do want lens options, and you do care about that, you still will get ZV-1 Essence in this. Not going to miss anything really for battery life, maybe a little bit better. Yes, a little bit bigger body, but this is so much lighter. And I'm sorry to say it, but my girthy girl over here, the battery, man, I'm like, that's why I agree with the decision to not put the Z battery. Again, another unpopular opinion. I actually agree to not put the Z battery in here. I would rather use. Again, what is it? Mileage, your mileage may vary. Pick your own poison if you want to. I would rather have this next to my little battery bank that is in my bag anyway, because I use my phone a lot for my business. I'd rather have this in there that's always keeping a battery in there that's charged, and that I can keep on the battery bank that stays in my bag any gosh darn way. Swap that one out, put this one in, and I only need one other battery when I'm traveling. That is it. I don't carry no ton of batteries. Everybody like, you need 5-6 batteries. You're crazy, and Merry Christmas to you. But for me, I have the battery that's in the camera that can be topped off when I'm going out to eat or you're sitting at a cafe or whatever. Top it off because I'm not using it in the camera. But I have a charged battery ready to go that is slim, takes up no space in my bag, and can go in one of the little wallet pockets or whatever. And then when this battery in the camera dies, or I want to swap it out and throw it on the charger, I take the good battery out and pop that in. The difference with that is that it doesn't take longer to charge than it does to use, so you don't have no dead time. Even if I completely exhausted one, it takes the same time to use it as it does to charge. It's not that big of a deal. So I like not having to think about battery life with this, but I also love not having the wait, because as soon as I picked this up with 1018, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I'm like, this is right. I'm like, they did some good market research with this. I'm like, this is right. This is what I want. This is like why I guess they put it as a vlogging camera. I like it as an overall content creation camera, but vlogging is cool too. I don't mind. This is, I don't care about carrying this. 10 to 18 is going to get stuck on here. It's like, I don't mind using this at all. This is perfect. What's up to Paul Duncan? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying, yo, thank you so much. Starting the video version of our podcast soon. Thanks for guiding camera buying guide. Is low-key overwhelming. No worries. The thing you have to think about, you do not need to know every little thing about a camera. You need to think about your system of how you plan to use a camera. That is where most people get it wrong. And I think nobody's going to tell you that. I'm telling you. Don't need to know every little, what are you going to do? Be indoors, maybe, or be outdoors, or maybe you're doing both. Cool. Indoors, controlled lighting. What's a good lighting setup that's not going to take up a lot? Viltrox LED light kit with pop-up softbox. Collapsible, put awayable, and it's not going to take up no space. Cool. Get the ZV-E10. What lens do you need? How close are you going to be? Get a kit lens with your camera. If you're new to this, put it down. Where do you want to sit? What all do you want in the shot? And then wherever you zoom into on your camera, it'll tell you what that millimeter is. And or just use your camera if you don't know, and you'll see where you default to. I tested the Sigma 16 versus buying it. I did not believe the hype about it. I'm like, man, y'all just saying that. I'm like, okay, tested out 16 millimeters. I'm like, it's a little too wide for my taste, but even being super close, I'm like, it's a little too wide. I'm like, it's getting too much stuff. Clear image zoom, bring that right in, because I don't want to buy 20. That'll just be stuck at that all the time. But between 16 and 20 millimeters, I'm like, I can make that work. Sigma 16 work. So buy a kit lens and actually use your camera in the environment and in the use case of what you plan to. And then you adapt so that your system of how your camera works well. Test that out, use it nonstop for 30 days. You'll know your camera at the end of 30 days. You'll be way more comfortable. So don't feel like you need to know everything. What is going on, Fulgens? Good to see you, brother. Glad that you are here. David Hunt trying to get kicked out with the dark. Said, no, I love my child. I'm good. What is going on, SK's Crevice? As I always say, you got a great setup. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sony need to sign you up if they haven't. Hey, man, y'all better send a messenger pigeon. Tell them that your girl over here is putting in work. Okay, I'm trying, man. We out here in these streets. No, all good things come in good time. What's going on, Miss Finance? Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Everyone hit the like button. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for clearing my doubts. Good night. Have a good evening. I hope you take care. Take care. Alrighty. Damn, Jamaica be taking hella punches because the entertainment section didn't die. It's hard out here. Thanks for sharing that, Miss D. We'll definitely have those sentiments in mind in the vault now. No problem. The mind vault. What's going on, Steve Worthy? Good to see you. Glad that you are here, brother. saying, sorry, can't sleep. It's 1 a.m. now. So what I get, maybe I need a good wide lens so that I need a close shot that I can zoom in without any quality loss, bokeh, and so forth. Okay. If you can, rent. If you can, rent. Sometimes your local shops, if let's say lens rentals may not work for you in your local area, oh, that's okay. Rent. Sometimes your local camera shops have where you can still rent for about the same price. It's much better to rent a lens and see if it's going to work for you versus spending the $600, $700, $800, even $300 or $400 if it may not be right. Now, if you do purchase, just make sure you keep a date on when is the last day you can to return that and use the hell out of it up until then so that you can really see if it's going to work. Because places like Amazon, Best Buy even have like a 30-day. I think you get even longer sometimes at Best Buy. B&H Photo Video, Adorama are great for that. KEH.com is great for that. If you can buy it, put a date in your calendar in your phone to like tell me 2 days before so I can get this thing wrapped up and sent back if I don't like it. But sometimes that's sometimes what it takes. You have to purchase it. And for the next like 30 days, a little bit less than that, so you can get it returned if you need to. I use the hell out of it. So I'm like, ZV-E10 is cool, but I'm like, obviously my A6600 is my go-to girl, but ZV-E10, I'm like, okay, is this really going to work for my community? Is this really going to have this issue? Which is why I want to bring to y'all the exposure concerns, which I do think needs to be adjusted for the sensitivity in a firmware update. That's the one issue that I have. One biggest issue. Is it return the camera issue worthy? No. Lenses sometimes it's like it could be good, it could be like if you don't like it, return it, you know. But I would definitely say try it. Don't wait until you got the thing to do or the podcast comes up and then you gonna go record. That's the wrong way to do that. It's the best way to waste money. When you buy something, for the next 30 days, you need to be bugging the hell out of your family. Be like, hey, Grandpa, what you doing? Good to see you. Let me zoom in on it. Let me try this camera. He's like, get that out of my face. 1 second, Papa. We'll be done in a second. He's like, you going to work? Shoot. You don't have to use this footage. This is what I call, and I'm teaching my clients, it's called throwaway footage. You do not need to post this anywhere. You do not need to use it, but you do need to review it. Okay, I'm at 10 millimeters right now. I'm getting ready to sit here. Let me see if I'm walking real fast, if I'm out of breath, if I'm about ready to pass out, if that's a thing for you. It's like, what does it look like? Or if I'm sitting here and I'm getting excited and I'm doing like with this camera, if that's something that you do, what does it look like? Is that acceptable to you? Yes or no? You can only do so much with online reviews and such. But once you get something in your hand, for the next 30 days, you need to be maxing it. It's my opinion there. So thanks for the response. I'm not planning to switch lenses for the vlogging. It sounds like ZV-1 is the best route. Thanks again. My pleasure. Hope that serves you well. Can I turn the camera screen off while I stream via HDMI? I have not found that to be true. Let me... no. I don't even have to look. I was going to plug it up and see, but I'm like, no. You can close the screen. So you got it on. It's not like the ZV-1 where when you close the screen, it turns off. So you got the screen out facing you or whatever. And you don't like it, or just giving you extra lighting if you're in a darker situation and you're getting that kind of... There you go. And Merry Christmas to you. So close the screen. That's the best bet right there. Then last week you talked about buying a system. I'm taking notes. It's the best thing that you can do. You can only do so much research from online. You can get the person that is in the closest use case to you. You can take the words and advice from people that you respect or like you like their content. It's fine. You really won't know until you get it in your hands, because the stuff like this is what used to bug me when I first got started in video and I didn't know what I didn't know, is that when I would go through content, like you see just maybe those 3, 4, 5 seconds of a time lapse, but that's it. Like you wouldn't see, like you may see like the first couple seconds or 30, 40 seconds or whatever, but you don't see the whole 45-minute segment or the stuff that gets cut out or whatever. And that would kind of frustrate me because it's not their fault. They maybe only needed that much, but you also didn't see the rest of the footage to see if you needed it, which you might do. Now what? How screwed are you? If there was a time lapse that I really wanted to use and show the whole thing, maybe speed it up some more so it's shorter. Now it's bright, dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright, dark. And you didn't know that because the video clip only showed you a snippet. If you look at episode 11 of the vlog, you probably didn't see that much, maybe like that intro part. And I'm like, the exposure's still asleep. I just kind of made a joke out of it, but I'm like, yeah, that's got to be addressed, because if you need your camera to like stop that, you need to lock that ISO. You have the auto. This is another thing that I found with the ZV-E10. It'll come in dedicated videos. Auto exposure lock is available. Auto white balance lock doesn't exist in this camera, and I don't like that at all. Auto white balance lock says if I'm out and about and the white balance looks good, I want to lock it so it stays. Not having automatic white balance lock says keep playing around and it will keep adjusting. And the ZV-E10 also needs that sensitivity adjusted for that as well. The auto exposure lock, you can say, okay, that exposure looks good, freeze right there, and don't change the exposure no more. Don't go from dark to light. You can make it do that. The auto white balance lock doesn't exist, because I looked in the manual, the online manual, the advanced guide or whatever. I'm like, this is not even in here. Nowhere to be found in the camera. And I'm like, this sucks. Because to go from cool to an oranger image and all that stuff, that sucks. And that's not acceptable in my opinion. Can you set the white balance? Yes, but everybody ain't carrying around a gray card or a freaking shoestring like Gerald undone. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, now what I gotta do? Carry a little gray card all the time with me? Or play around with the Kelvins to figure that out? That should be in there. That deserves to happen in a firmware update. So those are my two biggest things with it. Auto exposure is too sensitive. Auto white balance lock doesn't exist. That needs to be adjusted big time. So yeah. But if I get a 14, or excuse me, not a 14, but an f1.4, f1.8 full frame lens, then I need filters. If I'll shoot outside, sunny day, in the rooms, I need less light. If you need an ND filter, get a good one. Most of the time you don't need multiple, like you don't need to, I made this mistake because I didn't know step up and step down rings were a thing. Hold on. Now you're gonna make me reach for stuff. All right, now we're going into the deep space nine here. All right, these are what's called step up and step down rings. Some of these are on lenses and stuff, which is why this ain't a full stack. These are what's called, just so I can zoom in for effect, step up, step down rings. These have numbers on them. Okay, block the eye and the face. Okay, step up, step down rings, right? They let you go from one thread size to another one, which is why most lenses, depending on the certain kind it is, have about the same millimeter thread around the top of the lens. So you're looking at about 67 millimeter around the diameter. So for this Sigma 16, it's a 67 diameter there. If you get a 67, you're pretty much good no matter what lens you go to for the most part. But make sure that's something else to check when you buy your lenses. If the 10 to 18, this one takes a 62. So at that point, I'm using like a step up or step down ring to go from 67 to 62. So all I need to do is go in my drawer, like Blue's Clues handy dandy notebook out here in these streets, and go get one of these and adjust. Same filter and just adjust. If you got multiple cameras, then you do need multiples. But get a good one. I'll just leave it at that. Get a good one. But you can use step up, step down rings to make that adjustment to go from lens to lens if you just have one camera or whatever, or whatever. So that's not that big of a deal. Take it off if you don't want to. They even have the ones that come over the thing and flip back up. So it's a faster action than what it usually is. So that's what I say there. All right. I normally don't use 9 brand camera batteries, but I had to get a charger. ZV-E10 came with 3 backs. Any opinion on using them? I don't. I have some because what I bought, I think I showed it last week, was the dual side. I think it was Power Extra as well. Or it could have been Neewer. I think it was maybe it was Neewer. Whatever it was, third party. I just wanted the charger. You're not going to find any Sony ones like that. So that's why we have to go third party. And some of these come with batteries. They are fine as a backup to the backup, or a backup to the backup to the backup. They are not my go-to. My main ones is going to be Sony ones. So I own like 3 Sony branded ones just across the different cameras and whatever. For the FW50, even the ZV-1, I don't buy third party. It's a waste of money. I used to think it was cool or whatever, and I'm like, it's really not. I've had where cameras swell up. The last thing that you want is to go get your camera and it's from overnight. It's been sitting with the battery in it. It's some third party random brand. And it's now hard to get that battery out of your camera because over time it's swollen up. That's a problem. Because any of that acid leaks, now my connectors and all that stuff could be cleaned or damaged, and I got to figure out. It ain't always a Q-tip and alcohol. We used to fix everything like that back in the day. But freaking rubbing alcohol, right? But I'm like, I'm not playing that game. And to be honest with you, what you can make with these mirrorless cameras monetarily, no matter what your business is, or if you're just getting started in content creation, the amount of money that you can make from leveraging a camera is not worth the $30 difference between a cheap one and a good one. And it ain't worth breaking your camera, because I did that with the M50. It costs $20 adapter or $100 or something. I think it's like $80. Bought the $20 thing, camera broke. Now that's another $200 and something price tag. $250 something. I think it's like $279 maybe. Ain't worth it. Buy the right stuff. What's going on, Cable Call Me? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. So this is where I need to be. Get the updates on the ZV-E10. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And we've already had the dark chocolate brigade coming in here starting mess. So he needs to join the gym after selling my Canon 5D EOS R 70D, 70 to 200, etc. Getting the Sony A7 III and A6400s. Wasn't getting upper body workout. Lighter gear pitfalls. I'm telling you, that heavier gear will do it to you. I can't be bothered. So, okay, I understand. There's no giveaway. Can we get the... No, David, we're not playing the Wheel of Wonder reviews. Jeez, we're not doing that today. So, what's going on, Migs? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. But you are late, sir, and coming in on the tail end of the stream. But glad to see you. Good reason for you to be here, nonetheless. So, hopefully you guys get your questions answered and all the things coming up with the Sony ZV-E10. And if you don't know, we have our Mastering Micro course at masteringmicro.live. I'm not playing the video again. Just go to masteringmicro.live, see if it's for you. Bad advertisement, but that's where I'm at today. So thanks for joining us for today's stream. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.